Hello and welcome to Mint's India2Global Emerging Tech webinar series. Conversational AI was already gaining momentum before COVID happened. Now it has taken off as large organizations scramble to automate their customer engagement. Joining us are two of the leading makers of enterprise grade chatbots that go way beyond the capabilities of hobby chatbots. Little wonder they're making forays into global markets and multiple use cases. Welcome to the webinar, Shridhar Marri, CEO and co-founder of Senseforth, and Raghu Ravinutala, CEO and co-founder of Yellow Messenger. We'll begin with a discussion I recorded with them earlier, then go to a live Q&A session. So post your questions in the live chat as we play the recording now. Raghu, starting with you, can you tell us a little bit about how chatbots are helping organizations cope with remote work as well as coming out of lockdowns now?
Yeah, so we are seeing three scenarios that have been gaining a lot of traction post-COVID. From our employees and organizations opening up recently, I think there is a lot of demand for companies to monitor the health status and monitor just the working status of a lot of employees. Second, especially in manufacturing, we are seeing that there's a lot of new ways of handling equipment, new ways of handling their regular SOPs, and organizations want to guide them in a manner that is consistent with contactless or social distancing. And they are using chatbots, virtual assistants for both these purposes. Essentially, these bots automatically check the status, health status, etc. of these employees, provide a centralized dashboards to the company on the status of these employees, where is intervention required, and also helping these remote workers on their handling SOPs on a step-by-step manner, and also get analytics back into the company on how well the new guidelines are being followed or implemented. That's on the employee-facing side. On the consumer-facing side, it's very clear. I think there is the entire direct-to-consumer opportunity on WhatsApp that's exploding. These aggregators and distributors are completely disrupted, and brands are not having a way to market themselves better on these marketplaces or these aggregators, and they are using WhatsApp, which is almost like a pre-aggregated, right? They're already million users and driving commerce on that. So that segment is exploding quite a bit.
Yeah, the direct-to-consumer use case is very interesting. I'll come back to that. But first, maybe tell us a little bit about yourself and how you grew into this technology.
Yeah, so myself, I've been in semiconductor and electronic design automation industry for 15 years before I started. So predominantly that involved either designing chips or designing software for chip design. So frankly, entrepreneurship has been back of the mind, and at that point of time, we were looking at something that we can sell to every single person we come across, or every single business that we come across. And to see from 2010 to 2015, 2016, there's been a heavy adoption of messaging, voice interfaces, and right now we call that as messaging and voice as new browsers. So the insight was that there's a whole lot of software that's been developed over the last 15, 20 years to drive engagement on websites, mobile apps, email, right from, let's say, a MailChimp to Google Analytics to whole set of products. And if a lot of interaction or engagement is happening on messaging voice platforms, the world needs equivalents of all this software for these interfaces as well. So that's where we found an opportunity, and we were fortunate to have a good co-founding team. My co-founders come from Flipkart, Edgework, seen consumer scale. And then after that, it's been a step by step. And I think one of the key parts of the journey has been how significant has been the market pull towards these technologies. So we never kind of seen like a downturn in the last 2-3 years, right? It's just been a significant, more than us, I think it's just the market that has been so strong in pulling these technologies out of companies.
And how far have you been able to go with development of your NLP technology? Where are you at? What more needs to be done?
Yeah, frankly, I think we are probably 1% or 2% of what's achievable in NLP or any of the technologies, right? I think we are probably right now scratching the surface of what's possible over a period of time. But I think the key aspects of NLP, we believe, is that how it can be applied to scenarios that yield return on investment for enterprises, right? So essentially, verticalize the models or verticalize this virtual assistant for specific use cases in the industry. And the accuracy rates right now, almost for these vertical cases, are reaching 85-90% or more. But I think the probably we are at the level 2 or level 2.5 in level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of where NLP can reach. I think the next big steps in natural language processing and virtual assistants is about the ability to make more cognitive decisions within the flows, the ability to negotiate, then ability to kind of get more deeper emotions, persuade, etc. But I think in terms of technology, I think the current technology definitely can handle a lot of transactional and knowledge-based use cases.
Any example of how your AI chatbots, any example of something that your AI chatbots can do that most others can't?
Yeah, so I think there are quite a few examples. One we call is about handling large sets of unstructured data. A lot of chatbots or use cases that fail because most of them are dependent on like in defining conversation flows, intents, entities, etc. So those kind of break when companies have huge amounts of data that's probably stored in documents, PDF files, which could run into lakhs and lakhs of documents, and it's not possible to define millions of conversations within the virtual assistant. So one part of our technology is about the ability to understand these large set of documents using a predefined training set and be able to pinpoint answers out of these large set of documents. I think that's one key component that has been differentiating us. The second thing that has been differentiating us is how about orchestrating across multiple different bots, either within an enterprise or with multiple enterprises interacting. So the requirement there is that enterprises have multiple teams at the back end, so it has to be decentralized from an enterprise-facing perspective. So each group wants to maintain their own content, manage their own bot, or manage their own assistant. But from a end consumer or end user perspective, they don't want to differentiate between, am I talking to the marketing department, or am I talking to the HR, or am I talking to the customer support? So it's like a unified front end. So the ability to kind of decentralize at back end, and teams managing multiple content, and ability to orchestrate a single front end for the end consumer. I think that those are two broad things that I can kind of bring it out.
So turning to Shridhar, Shridhar, just begin by telling us a little bit about yourself. You were the VP at InfoSales, IT services, and then you decided to dive into NLP technology, and that was way back in 2014. So tell us about a little bit, about that journey.
Well, I'm a PhD scholar in conversational AI and an alumnus of IIM Calcutta and NID Ahmedabad. At Infosys, I met my colleagues, my co-founders now, Krishna and Ritesh, super techies. And together we work with Fortune 500 companies around the world, US, UK, Asia Pacific, and while we were working with these large enterprises, we came across innumerable number of enterprise challenges. During those 1.5 decades of experience in enterprise technology, and we've started sort of actually listing down these big problems that the enterprise were facing, and in one fine night, we all actually brainstormed and decided to pick up one big pain point and embark on an entrepreneurial journey. Next morning, we regrouped again and started work to build our own AI platform. So that's how it started. Subsequently, we pioneered the conversational AI space in India. We built HDFC Bank's famous chatbot, Eva, which handles 4 million queries per month. And we were very, very fortunate that we got an incredible opportunity to literally create a market which today is buzzing with activity and growth and investment and everything. Now we are very, very happy and extremely satisfied about the way things turned out to be. And today we transform enterprises into sort of conversational enterprises. So that's the starting point.
When you think of AI and NLP, the names that come top of the mind are the likes of Apple, Google, and others. So, what can you tell me about breakthroughs that you've made in NLP technology, which are of significance to global enterprises? Working out of India.
Right. So, we believe technology drives economy. So that is, that's number one. And our vision is to make technology behave like a friend. It means, make technology more and more human-like. And it's not just limiting to conversational AI. Conversational AI is just one sliver of an entire gamut of technologies that is AI comprises of. So we're working on several other cognitive skills, which is outside even conversational AI. And when it comes to NLP itself, we are only conversational AI platform in the top 10 of the global machine reading comprehension leaderboard, by Stanford, which is Squad 2.0. And this is a leaderboard where really big and large organizations with hundreds of millions of dollars of research dollars participate. Google Research is at number 3, and so many other, even Microsoft Research, Facebook AI, so many other large big tech companies, and we are extremely fortunate to be in that list, and we keep pushing the technology envelope, and we bring in features into the technology which were not existing in terms of understanding human intent. Understanding human intent, turning the context, changing the context, and even including emotion detection and so on and so forth. So this is what makes us unique in the marketplace, takes us to the top league.
Are you seeing new use cases in the post-COVID world?
Yes, in fact, there are so many use cases that are coming across. In fact, we have been seeing a great uptick in the market, post-COVID. And today, companies realize that, people who are sitting on the fence earlier, thinking that the chatbots can only solve maybe 70% of the problem or 80% of the problem, or sometimes even 50% of the problem, they were all jumping into the bandwagon and saying, well, even solving 50 or 60% of the problem is great. So we've built several COVID bots already, and in multiple languages, in German, in Welsh, in English, in Indonesian, Spanish, Portuguese, and so on and so forth.
Any examples of new areas, apart from the types of enterprises, that banking and others that you were going after earlier, Any examples of new areas where you see it's used now after the pandemic?
Well, I think yes, there are. In fact, the way you sell is going to change, and the way you market is going to change. The way you sort of work with your employees remotely is going to change. So I think the employee productivity aspects, marketing and sales, and even customer support, the way the customer support happened so far has been different. Now, what happens if your customer support agents are working from home? So, it is throwing up so many different use cases. In fact, in every space.
Both of you have heard each other about how you came into this technology and what's unique about y'all. I would actually be curious to hear, maybe starting with Raghu, from a fellow practitioner, what would you like to know about their experience with their technology and serving customers in a post-pandemic world?
Sure. I would love to understand what do you rate as your number one, two challenges for conversational AI as an industry that you have been seeing, right? While there are several companies out there, I think there are probably 100 times the number of organizations that are ready to be served. But there is still some gap in kind of expanding to all the companies out there. But what are the one two challenges that you see as a company, Sridhar, or in this space?
That's a great question, Raghu. I'm glad you asked. I think the biggest, you're right that this space is crowded. It appears to be crowded because it's crowded because a lot of players today are entering this market thinking that there is a gold mine. But on the other hand, the enterprise space is huge. It's a multi-trillion-dollar economy by itself. So that is, in my view, I think the space is huge, and there is space for all good players. Now, the noise comes from the small players where they do either one or two use cases or focus on one or two verticals, and may or may not have their own proprietary technologies, both in NLP and in the platform. So that's where the noise comes from. So and of course, the big tech firms have their own platforms, and they would bring in their platform and give it to developers. And those are developer focused anyway. So they want to create ecosystems around their platforms. So this is where it gets a little fleety. But I think if you're a focused conversational AI player, I think the space doesn't look so crowded, to me at least. In terms of biggest challenge, yes, the crowded feeling is a challenge. But when the rubber hits the road, when your technology is tested against others, that's when I think the customers know that which technology is superior and which is not. And sometimes clients are sort of actually taken for a ride by the smaller companies. They don't have the technology. They don't know how to deliver it on the promise, and the enterprises lose time, energy, effort, and even the brand name. So this is one of the challenges that we see.
How do you overcome that?
Well, I think as we've been doing from the beginning, when you create a new market, you have to educate the market. That's your responsibility. That means you have to go beyond selling itself. So that is time consuming, and it takes time, it takes energy, and it's not always, may not always result into a sale. So that's the only way that we see it, as educating our clients, prospects, in terms of how they should even choose a chatbot company.
What would you want to ask Raghu about his experience?
Hi, Raghu. So how are you guys pushing your technology envelope?
So I think the way that we push our technology envelope is the problems we see on a regular basis. I think so far the way that we've been focused on any new feature development has been primarily driven by problem statements that we get exposed to while we are getting to the customers, rather than the other way around of creating a technology that's probably not useful. For example, the features, the things that I just talked about earlier have all come from the problems that customers were seeing. And that's our really the North Star in terms of where where technology can be etc. I think to actually deliver on that strategy, what is needed is a team that can develop technology in a very agile manner where they can solve very hard problems in a really small amount of time. Whereas in the first way, where you're kind of developing the technology and then looking for deployment, you typically spend months and years, and you have the luxury of time. So the way that technology organization is built to deliver strong, deep technology in a very agile manner. I think that's how the teams are built, and the North Star remains to be keep on solving problems that we get exposed to. That.
Actually, on that note, I'd like to come back to what you had mentioned earlier on the direct-to-consumer opportunity and how you use the WhatsApp channel for brands to sell directly to consumers during the lockdowns when there were restrictions on selling only essential goods and so on. Tell us about your experience with going after that opportunity. What did you have to do?
Yeah, so I think we got exposed to that opportunity as soon pretty much after the initial signs of COVID were appearing. And I think a lot of organizations had foresight that there's going to be disruption. I mean, looking back, it just looks like some of these customers were visionary in kind of thinking about what's going to come. And some of the companies we engaged early on, Spencer Retail, Walmart, etc. I think the problem statement there was providing an end-to-end commerce experience. Like there are multiple thousands and thousands of SKUs, and how are you building your front-end interface on WhatsApp to actually enable you to deliver the entire e-commerce experience with cards, etc. And at the same time, a lot of these companies also didn't have any commerce backend systems because they were not doing direct to consumer in any ways. I think that was the like a product challenge that kind of we saw early on when these customers came up with the demand. And this entire vertical was probably built in 1 or 2 weeks that enables just like the end-to-end commerce flows, carting, and also a lot of these companies have these delivery agents that are kind of dispersed across the geography, and these have to be routed in the right way. And these delivery agents have to interact with their own bots to enable synchronization of this entire process. So it's almost like building a mini Swiggy on conversational interfaces at that particular point in time. And since we got the first 2-3 brands on board, and now we're just seeing it's I think right now we probably sign up around 10 customers every single week, like more than 100 deployments just in the direct to consumer space. We're seeing brands that are global, that are non-essential as much as bathroom accessories, shoes, etc. They are getting onto the entire D2C bandwagon. And the next set of challenges that are arising is to enable payments within these interfaces, enabling logistics with these players. So we have partnerships on all those areas, and those are integrated directly on the platform. So right now, customers typically go live in 1 or 2 days. And now the biggest one since last week has been the alcohol delivery. So we have like quite a few brands that are enabling alcohol delivery on conversational interfaces here onto direct consumers. So that's how we see the opportunity emerging, and the numbers that we are essentially seeing is for majority of these brands, the number of orders that they are getting on conversation interfaces bots is higher than a lot higher than websites and mobile apps between like using for multiple years. So we see this being a reasonably tectonic shift, and it's not going to go back post COVID. And I think there was this entire aggregation wave that happened in the last 15 years where there was like single brand that aggregated. I'll do the logistics, I'm aggregating the demand. Uh, what I see right now, the next wave is going to be disaggregation. What it means is every brand, even SMEs, every single restaurant, food delivery, all of them are using pre-aggregated platforms like WhatsApp, but they are doing their own service delivery, their own order taking because I mean that's giving them a lot of leverage in the way that they give the experience, in the way that they market, and also control in terms of pricing, cost, etc.
And the $8 billion that Reliance Jio has raised from Facebook and others, how will that play into this kind of a digital infrastructure and possibly push this change of behavior?
Yeah, I think during that investment itself, I think there was a narrative that WhatsApp would probably be the interface through which Reliance will drive a lot of commerce across their hyperlocal delivery, hyperlocal ordering, hyperlocal commerce, etc. I think that will be a catalyst in kind of driving the entire messaging or conversational commerce economy in countries like India. So Reliance Jio has presence pretty much across India and the largest retailer right now. And it is driving the habit of users coming on to WhatsApp kind of platform, placing orders, and that just continues. I mean, my expectation is that that will continue to create a habit or a regular user behavior to go and look for WhatsApp when you want to first think about ordering or thinking about a brand. And I think a lot of that will drive a lot of activity around other retail companies, other consumer companies also to join that bandwagon. Reliance at the end of the day probably 1% of all the orders that India places at some point of time. It will not have a large percentage of that volume, but there are a whole set of brands and whole set of ecosystem that it will drive on the WhatsApp platform. And I think that will be a phenomenal catalyst to pretty much all conversational AI companies because once people start interacting there, then you essentially they go there for customer support. Brands need to market out there, so it'll just open up a whole set of activities, and most of that would be automated, multilingual, etc. So very very bullish, and I think that's a big catalyst to the conversational commerce ecosystem, not only in India but across the world.
So actually, since WhatsApp is used in so many different ways in India, does it actually put you in a bit of an advantageous situation compared to rivals in other markets where WhatsApp is used, for example, in Latin America?
So Latin America is also pretty big on WhatsApp. So Brazil, Mexico are very large consumers of WhatsApp. I think what the combination of companies based out of India, the advantage lies is there is this large scale adoption of WhatsApp. What other countries lack is the technology talent, product talent that companies in India have. That we have seen. I mean, you sell in India, it's like way more easier to sell in Southeast Asia or Latin America market because the local technology talent, product talent. If you see the India SaaS ecosystem is probably the second or third in the world. In this domain, we call emerging markets as the home markets for conversational AI. That means that these are the markets where the demand is a must-have rather than a nice-to-have, and you have a good product ecosystem that can address this demand. So you'll have much deeper companies built out of India. where there is technology expertise with the deep demand for products around conversational AI, and that essentially enables great products that will be more advanced than products developed anywhere else in the world. The second advantage I see clearly is India has nailed out inside sales model, right? Where people can do desk selling, and there's a large talent pool that is trained in selling across the world, sitting in India. That's an infrastructure pretty much not available or not accessible for rest of the world. I mean, we don't have large inside sales companies in US, Latin America, Southeast Asia, right? So a combination of these three our view, our investors' view is that the world's largest conversational AI company will come out of India just because of these three factors coming together. And in fact, there's one more catalyst that we are seeing is the backend centers for a lot of global companies where the actual domain knowledge exists or the actual backend operations which we are automating right now are being done manually are done out of India and Southeast Asia markets. You see the call center for Uber, call center for major banks in the US, they're probably in India or Vietnam. And second, a lot of conversational AI integrations happen with their current enterprise systems. And if you see majority of the SAP management for a lot of these enterprises happens somewhere in Pune, Bangalore. I think that's another added advantage that your company is based where the actual domain which you are automating is really dominant on. The systems are managed here. There's technology talent. There is a selling talent. And there is a deep demand for this markets.
Sridhar, you were telling me about conversations you were having with civic bodies in Europe. How are those conversations, and I mean human conversations, going with kind of a different area, as well as universities? You've engaged with a university in Australia to where again there is new pull coming in, rather than going and educating these users on using conversational AI. There's probably a new pull coming in from civic bodies, universities, and so on. Tell us about how that is going.
Right. Actually, we are. I think there is no organization that's not impacted by conversational AI. So what we are doing is we are trying to reimagine an enterprise or an organization, be it a civic body or a university or even a nonprofit, for that matter, is to sort of reimagine and create a new conversational enterprise by connecting AI, humans, business processes, analytics. So the idea is that we want to unlock the power of hyperscaled interactions throughout the enterprise and its stakeholders using our unique platform called A.Ware. So that is the premise. Now, so we connect the physical and the digital worlds of an enterprise or an organization. Now, whether it's a university which is trying to interact with the students in a contactless way, or whether it's a government which is offering citizen services over conversational AI, I think in both cases we make that happen through our platform with an architecture built for the future, spanning orchestration, intelligence, and an open ecosystem. So that is the fundamental layer here. Now, in terms of demand, I think as I said, there is no organization which is not going to be impacted by conversational AI, and government organizations or universities are no exception. So we're seeing demand come from across industries. We today operate in 10 different industry verticals. The rules of the game are slightly different from an enterprise to a civic body. So the idea is to a civic body cannot afford to have any kind of failure, because the governments are expected to function in a way, especially in the developed world, So you have a completely different set of challenges. That means you need to have a human handoff. You need to have context management abilities. You need to have not just plain vanilla transactional capabilities, but also bring in personalized and contextual conversations. So these are some of the challenges in these two spaces.
And how do you see advantages for you being in India to serve this global opportunity? And Raghu mentioned a few. What can you add to that in terms of being in India and serving this need?
So I think Raghu is absolutely right that I think the next big conversational AI companies would definitely come from India. And of course, there are a few just scattered around the world, but we have our unique advantages. Our data sets are huge, so that is something that is none of the other conversational AI platforms around the world have. Where do you have one of your bots handling 4 million queries per month? So that is unheard of. So that means you're generating so much of data, and that data is a gold mine. And because you understand the human interactions, how the AI is interacting, what is the expectation, the entire changing customer behavior can be understood through pattern recognition of this data. So that is the most valuable asset that conversational AI platforms can have. That is one of the key advantages. And of course, the other advantages, as Raghu also mentioned, is that we are traditionally a global back office, right? So from an IT services standpoint, now that also comes into play as an advantage, and we're really bullish about how Indian companies rise up to the occasion and become the global leaders in conversational AI. From our standpoint, we don't want to limit ourselves to only conversational AI. We want to sort of venture into other adjacent AI spaces. For example, since our vision is to make technology more and more human-like and behave like a friend, so we want to sort of end up into creating robotics suites, which are vision analytics with image recognition, video analytics, gesture analytics, even smell, touch, and all other human cognitive skills need to come into the unified AI solution, and that's where we're also investing on the side.
One side of this is developing these technologies. The other side is how these technologies are deployed. In terms of one of the key elements of that is integration with the backend, with various backend systems. In terms of that, is it an advantage or disadvantage being in India? And if it's, how do you make that happen?
Well, it is certainly an advantage because as enterprise technology, companies in India, we have been exposed to actually integrating with several large-scale backend systems, whether it is core banking or HRMS or SAPs of the world, like ERPs and CRMs and so on and so forth. So we have the talent pool and we have the experience and expertise in actually integrating with those technologies. So that is clearly an advantage, and this is something that you can do it from India.
Raghu, your experience with that, with these integrations?
So two ways. One, I think, as Shridhar said, I think you get a lot of talent pool who has experience in integrations. And second, you also see, as I said, a lot of companies that are managing these integrations at some point of time. Companies like us would want to have third parties drive the implementation, etc., where your company, you kind of provide core product, and integration is probably driven by a lot of your partner ecosystem. And I think that India has a strong partner ecosystem. Second, probably I don't recollect the exact number, but somewhere between one third to one half of the entire developers in the world are based out of India. So platforms in India that can drive developer evangelism to kind of build on top of them. These are the same developers that go into companies like Accenture. These are the same developers that go into their what India calls as global innovation centers, the India offices that are managing most of these applications. And being in India, you are in a better position to influence a lot of developer ecosystem. And the analogy that you can take is how the RPA ecosystem also has developed. Right, a significant part of the RPA implementations are happening from India-based workforce. Either they are based out of the GICs or they are based out of partner organizations. They are system integration companies. I see that. Yeah, I think that's what I see Smith as India advantage.
Also, just want to add another point here. So I think it stops making any sense. Your place of operation. That is something that we've been seeing it, but with COVID, that is coming to the fore now. But the only issue that I see in India, in fact, if you look at Moore's law, which states that the computing power increases every 2 years, I would like to propose another law where the relevancy of your skills decreases every 2 years. So that means the intellectual bandwidth of your teams is going to be, in fact, not just your team, but the entire country is going to be a huge problem. I think that is where I see a challenge, and there's going to be a massive implosion of those skills. So I think as a country we need to invest in those skills, and and then sort of fight this new law, which reduces the relevancy of your skills every 2 years.
Thank you so much, Shridhar and Raghu, for sharing your insights as well as experiences in this emerging field. It's fascinating talking to you both, two of my favorite founders. Welcome back, Shridhar Garu and Raghu Garu. It's curious that two of the leading AI chatbot makers in India are from Telangana, right? Both of you?
No, I'm from Andhra, Sumit. So, but yeah, that's not Andhra Pradesh. I think it was Andhra Pradesh before we came to Bangalore. But yeah, there is something in the air, I guess.
Shridhar was you're from Hyderabad, right? And
that's right.
Yeah, and
yes.
Like you have a PhD in conversational AI, right? I mean, that's quite rare, I assume. Not many people think of chatbots, as just something that you can build. But when you talk of enterprise grade chatbots handling like millions of customers, there's a lot of deep tech involved, right? So how do you go about that? I mean, does your company have patents, intellectual property? How do you build differentiated value?
Absolutely. Yes. So in fact, one of the patents that we filed about 5 years ago in the United States has just been approved, and now we're getting that patent. So probably we are the only conversational AI player out there in the world with an approved patent in the US. So that's a good sign. So that clearly shows how deep that we sort of invest in terms of technology, and especially understanding human intents, resolving their queries in an automated, scalable way. So that's the idea and the intent, and that's where we won these patents. So we have a few more patents in the pipeline. So we are constantly investing in technology and taking it to the next notch.
Raghu, bringing you in, like the big tech players of the world like Apple and Google, they're also, getting into the messaging space. How do you see that? And you mentioned during our conversation earlier that conversational AI is a category where India can produce the leader.
So, both Google and Apple, I think most of these companies are realizing that a lot of the future commerce and consumer to business interaction is going to be driven out of messaging and voice interfaces. So, some of the big things that happened over the last 2, 3 months is the entire launch of Google Business Messaging, where Google is allowing to help consumers directly start messaging business from Google search results for the business or from the maps itself. So, for example, somebody searches for a pizza and finds a pizza chain on the map or on the result. There is a messaging interface that's provided to the user, and they can start conversing. And Yellow Messenger has partnered, integrated with that to enable the entire experience from maps search to actually bot that sits on that messaging and then can transfer off to a live agent. One of the biggest experiences that it brings out is the entire discovery problem is solved because there are about 380 million calls that are generated from Google search results every year. And as per various studies and even studies by Google, 85% of these users don't want to call them on a message, right? And this is enabling that and automatic discovery. And I think this will be a great tailwind for the market, and we are already seeing great demand for it. And even Apple has realized, and a lot of developed economies, Apple iMessage is a significantly large channel for consumers to kind of interact with each other. And Apple has come up with Apple Business Chat, enabling very, very rich experiences within the iMessage platform. And kind of we're working to enable some large brands on that interface. So we see that being a big driver in the developed markets where iMessage and Apple are really big in terms of messaging. And the third actually is the entire RCS game. Everybody has SMS in their phone. So in India right now, very large brands of mobile phones have now enabled rich communication service. That means that you get rich messaging within your regular SMS platform. What it means is that people will be able to interact with all quick replies, videos, rich communication right from the messaging interface, and the brands will be able to communicate. So it's just becoming much larger and omnipresent, and we just see that these are tremendous drivers for conversational commerce across the world.
Right. So that actually creates a lot more scope for you as well as a challenge to integrate all this, right? I
Yeah,
mean, to
absolutely.
bring all this together on your platform.
Yeah, companies who kind of create a seamless experience across these platforms, and kind of it's completely seamless from user perspective and even from enterprise perspective, that they don't need to think of where do I need to communicate, etc. It's just made seamless in terms of the communication goes with the right context on the right channel to the right user. I think that just I think that's a challenge companies like ours are solving to enable this. Yeah, so,
That's actually the the multi experience is one of the key factors of conversational AI. That means it's not just messaging platforms,
yeah.
but the users could be coming from devices like Alexa, Google Assistant, Google Home, or any other channels as such. So it's a multi experience unified delivery. That's
Yeah,
what makes conversational AI even more exciting.
absolutely, absolutely.
So we have a question from a viewer Kanupriya Puri. what are some use cases of AI working in conjunction with human abilities? Sridhar, you want to start with that?
Sure. In fact, I think the human in the mix is an important element. So here, it's conversational AI will not solve all the problems. So that's why you need to have a fallback, and when you have a fallback, you need to have a human in the loop, and that's when the conversational AI should be able to transition the conversation to a human with the context intact, and then also take it back once the human interaction is over. So it's a two-way kind of a model, and our platform supports this two-way engagement with the human. So that is that's a critical element.
At the same time, I mean, you have, I think during the discussion, you mentioned the noise from many smaller players. You have people who have mostly humans at the back end, right? And not much of an NLP engine.
Yeah, so that used to be the norm early on. People a lot of times, used to have people at the back end and then start having those conversations. In fact, several companies started out that way. But today, I think that's not the case. Even the small players try to sort of do it in automated way, but their ability to handle enterprise grade interactions is limited. But I think the conversational AI players like us, like Yellow Messenger, which are the top rung of the ladder, can handle that kind of conversation seamlessly at scale.
Raghu, any experiences to share in building this? Some of the learning in the course of building it, because obviously it's you learn by making mistakes as well.
Yeah, I think definitely a lot of learnings, and I think one of the key learnings is that uh, conversational AI is essentially a amplifier of what are the best things that are done by humans. As Sridhar said, it's not you kind of solve all the problems by itself. Just to give an example, a company really wants to replicate its best customer service agent for pretty much all of its customers. So, how you are kind of thinking of a system to replicate that across all the interactions that the enterprise has is a key component of AI. And second is also about the entire enablers for this ecosystem to work. Right? I think unless the company has the data, the systems to store the data, expose their systems through modern interfaces, etc. I think technology or AI by itself is not a be all and end all. And I think one of the key learnings, and we are really fortunate to have worked with customers who understand this, and they are the ones that leverages the most, is that it's a joint exercise between the companies developing this technology and the enterprise that's working on. Unlike a mobile app or different applications, where I think the requirement for businesses, enterprises to work with platform developers so closely to enable really awesome experiences. So I think co-creation is one big learning that we had that leads to a really big success in this space. Simply.
Also, Sumit, I think in the next few years, I would say, uh, you cannot run an organization without conversational AI. It's going to be so pervasive. So that is the impact that we foresee, because organizations cannot use only humans in resolving the needs of the customers, right? Many times customers might want to use a phone line and then talk to an agent, but that's not the case all the time. In fact, most of the customers are moving towards self-service, moving towards doing it by themselves, by through messaging or through other interaction models. So, and then they're coming from all kinds of channels. So that's the realm. But at the same time, the organizations probably will cut down their call centers and contact centers by maybe half or so, in the next few years, and then invest in these technologies, and then sort of gain the best of both worlds.
And the challenge for you in enabling that, or the opportunity, is to provide a platform that can help non techies use the platform and build out their use cases in whatever domain that they are in. Is that something that you're working on?
No, in fact, that is the norm. Our conversational AI platform called A.Ware is a zero code platform. All the technology is abstracted away. Even business users, very junior business users also can use it and build bots. So that is with a simple user interface of actually drag and drop, right? So that is the kind of model that we are going towards, and that's the only way, because even technology, for example, investing in technology skills for a lot of organizations is going to be an uphill task. So that means that's not the way to go forward. The only way to go forward is create platforms and technologies which are used by non-techies as well. And that is the issue when you see with the big tech firms. Most of the big tech firms platforms are purely developer focused.
In the discussion we recorded some time back, we really covered a lot of interesting ground, and I'd like to bring myself up to date on one or two points. Raghu, I mean, between then and now, uh, so many more people have come online, right? Because of the sheer pandemic and lockdowns and all that. So, how do you see commerce evolving with maybe hundreds of millions of more people online?
Yeah. By some estimate, the number might be plus or minus few million, but it looks like at least 100 million more users have come on to internet just in the last 3 months, right? Because that's the only way that they could get a recharge, or the only way that they could order something. And what we are essentially seeing is the brands are running behind that. How are I going to address this entire new demand that has come online? Just to give a example, one of our customers, which is an insurance company, and many of those renewals used to happen reasonably manually, right? And they used to be the agent calling up, going there to their registering, etc. But they are seeing a lot of new origination and renewals and support happening on digital platforms. The ratio completely reversed. It was 80 is to 20. Now it becomes 20 is to 80 in terms of online versus offline. And a lot of that is being driven through messaging platforms, because all of the new users, probably one of the first platform that they are really using is probably WhatsApp, right? Because that's the most used one, and that is bilingual. They can use in whichever language, etc. Um, so I think this is a pivotal moment in the shift from mobile web-based interfaces to conversation interfaces, because this entire new set of people are exclusively on messaging platforms. That's just kind of shifting the digital interactions and commerce onto this platforms at scale, at one single pivotal moment that happened over a period of time.
So there's a question from Anand Rishikesh, specifically on this actually. Do you have bots that businesses can integrate with their WhatsApp business accounts?
Absolutely, that's the core of it.
Everyone, yeah, it's like,
Absolutely,
yeah.
Uh, Maybe we'll just take one more. I'd like to bring Shridhar also up to date. I think Shridhar, I think during our discussion we spoke about some of the new areas where conversational AI is going, and I heard like between then and now you signed a deal with NHS UK, which sounds really interesting. So could you tell me a little bit about how that came about and what you're doing?
Well, we are constantly trying to expand our horizons and enter into newer geographies. We've gone into Australia, UK, Europe, Middle East, and Latin America as well. So that's a good sign for us. But in the NHS case, it's more to do with the assessing somebody's symptoms for in a COVID situation. So that is the bot that we've built. In fact, that's the bot that we built for a lot of clients, of course. But then this one is to have people. In fact, it's becoming difficult in UK at that point of time. This was a massive surge in numbers, and that's when we brought in that, and that's what the use case was. Yeah. So, but of course, it's a healthcare is one of our target areas. So, we have a complete conversational healthcare solution, and I personally believe that it's just not healthcare or a retail organization or a bank or a hospital or an insurance company. Everyone will be conversationally AI first interaction with the customer. So that's as long as if they have to interact with the customers or any stakeholders, the first touch point, the first line of defense is going to be conversational AI, and the humans will come after that. So that they can maximize the interactions, the returns, and everything, because the humans are not scalable.
Humans are not scalable. So, Raghu, any interesting new use case that we haven't mentioned so far, that in the intervening period that you've taken up?
Yeah, so what we are seeing coming up new, apart from I think Google Business Messaging and stuff is pretty new and pretty exciting, is on-demand access to experts on these platforms. So we've seen one of the fashion companies. Essentially, in an offline world, you go to a mall, you're choosing some expensive clothing. You have support from someone telling about telling about that piece of clothing or fabric, etc. And now that when that world is moving to online, you need kind of similar assistance to help you buy expensive fashion. And we are seeing some brands kind of creating a WhatsApp-based interface to people select a particular fashion item, and there's a fashion expert that comes in, and you're interacting with them on WhatsApp seamlessly to get fashion advice, get details of the product. So that's a significant use case. The second use case is around similar use case, but offline to online. So we are calling it endless sale. You go into a shop and there are like specific piece of merchandise that you want to buy. You have more questions on it, but there aren't experts in and around to help you buy that. So you scan a code, and again you get connected on WhatsApp. You're directly connected to a centralized expert somewhere sitting who has absolute knowledge of the product, and could be a brand personnel itself. So it's giving the consumer a real-time expert advice on anything that they can buy. Right. So these are pretty existing use cases. I mean, I don't. I give the credit to our customers. We didn't come up with it, but I mean, I found this pretty powerful.
Thank you so much, Sridhar and Raghu. That was really, everything you ever wanted to know about conversational AI, but were afraid to ask. Really covered a lot of ground and gave us a glimpse into the future, actually. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you,
Thank you.
Sumit. Thank you, Sridhar. It's fantastic meeting you both. Always a pleasure. Have a great
Absolutely.
weekend.
Absolutely. You too. Bye bye. Take care.
Bye bye.